Register for you as a place that you've been on the 30th, the 31st or the 1st of February, and particularly in those time periods, then we would ask you to go and get tested tomorrow morning, and we will provide you with advice. You should isolate until you get a test result. Again, this is one case. We are all well trained and well schooled in what to do as a state. But we've got to take this seriously, and through an abundance of caution I have a number of announcements to make in relation to restrictions and rules. Given that this may be that the mutant or that new strain, the UK strain, we haven't got genomic sequencing back yet. When we get that, we'll update you. We can't necessarily determine exactly how it is that the person has become infected, particularly given that they produce negative test results. All of that will become clearer with further examination of CCTV footage and genomic sequencing, further testing, all of that coronavirus detective work that's already well and truly underway, and we'll go throughout the evening. We'll have more to say about that tomorrow morning, but we have to assume that this person has in fact infected others, and it's through that abundance of caution that I'm announcing from 11:59 p.m. tonight, Cabinet has endorsed the advice of the Chief Health Officer to reinstate the Black Rock or New Year's Eve settings, so private gatherings 15 only, masks inside, across all inside, whether it's a private or a public gathering, masks would be worn inside, and also I want to give notice to those employers and employees that we are pausing the scheduled shift to 75% private sector on Monday and 75% public sector on Monday as well. That doesn't mean it won't happen sometime shortly after then, but at this stage we're pausing that. I can't be certain that we'll be able to take that step on Monday. So we will keep the current settings, which is public sector back to the office at 25% and private sector at 50%. As soon as we get advice that it's safe for us to take that step and go to the 75%, we will. But now's not the time to do that, not until that detective work is a bit more advanced. We've got more test results. There's a whole lot of rapid testing been done tonight. We'll get those results in the morning. There's other testing that will be done throughout tomorrow, and we'll get those results and we'll update you accordingly. Again, I just want to finish on this issue before I make a further announcement. I just want to finish by making the point that we, all of us across this state, having been through everything we've been through, having been as a community so united and had that real sense of purpose to beat this thing, I'm confident that we all know what we have to do. I'm confident that we've got this in good time and we are working as hard as we possibly can, and people will be working, many hundreds of people will be working throughout the evening and for as long as it takes to track down every single close contact, to isolate them, to test them, to track and trace and to isolate, and to essentially contain and smother this, just as we did at Black Rock around Christmas time, New Year's Eve, and indeed many other outbreaks throughout the course of 2020. But we thought it was appropriate, given that we do have information to update, it was appropriate to brief you tonight. We won't be able to answer all your questions because that's the nature of this. I think tomorrow morning we'll be out fairly early and we'll have more to say at that point. Just finally, before I ask Jerome to go to some of the nuts and bolts practical issues around testing sites and some of the other work that we're doing, because that is, again, the only thing that matters. The most important thing, if you've got symptoms or if you've been at one of these sites, you've got to go and get tested, and you can't wait till tomorrow afternoon. You've got to go first thing tomorrow morning. We're all counting on you to do that. All of us are counting on you to do that first thing tomorrow morning. However, tomorrow we were scheduled to receive the final report of the Royal Commission into Mental Health. That issue is such an important issue that I don't want for a moment any of us to be occupied with other important matters. It is deserving of our absolute full attention, our undivided attention, and that's why it will not be tabled tomorrow. We will not make that available tomorrow. We will instead defer that, and when it's safe to do so, hopefully in just a few days' time, maybe next week, we will have that out to the public, and we'll be able to speak to our response to that. We'll be able to hear from the Royal Commissioners themselves. That is just far too important an issue to not have our complete and undivided attention. So that won't occur tomorrow, just for the purposes of clarity. That will not be being released tomorrow. It'll happen when it's safe to do so, and I would hope that's in just a few days' time. So, having taken you through all that we know pretty much, I just now want to throw to the testing commander, Jerome, and he'll take us through the steps we've taken, the steps we've taken around pop-up test sites and some of the other work that we're doing, and then all of us are happy to take any and all questions you have.
Thank you, Premier. Good evening. So tonight a full contact tracing program is now well underway and will continue all the way through the night and over the next few days. The individual concerned has provided outstanding information. We are continuing to talk to him tonight to extract as much information as possible about his movements to ensure we have an accurate view about his contacts and his exposure sites. The 8 exposure sites that the Premier has gone through are uploaded now on our website. We have sought to reach out to all of those organisations tonight. Not all of them, I'm sure, we will have been able to contact yet, but if not, we will continue to try until we speak to them to ensure we can get their full cooperation, which I'm sure they will provide, to ensure that their own contact tracing systems are accessed and we can identify anybody who has been at those exposure sites. Our focus tonight is that anybody who's been at any one of those 8 exposure sites during the times indicated on the website and in the materials should please come forward to get tested tomorrow, and please do not delay. We are also sending messages and reaching out to all of the work colleagues of this individual. They will also be instructed to isolate and to get tested, and again we will have dedicated testing facilities to support them to do that during the day of tomorrow. In addition, we have a significant effort around setting up additional testing activities. I'm pleased to confirm that the 13 major test sites in the southeastern suburbs, eastern and southeastern suburbs, will all be open at 8 a.m. tomorrow for 12 hours, 8 till 8. We've extended all of their operating hours and we are opening up additional lanes on those drive-through testing sites to ensure that we can meet the demand that we expect to see tomorrow. I should warn everybody, it will be a warmer day tomorrow. Again, we're expecting a busy day at our testing stations. We will have additional testing capacity not only at those 13 testing sites, but also additional testing stations at Brighton, at Monash University, and we are looking at setting up an additional couple of sites, which we will confirm early in the morning. Nevertheless, we expect there to be a busy morning today, a busy day tomorrow to see testing demand. So we would ask people to please prepare, make sure you bring some water, make sure your fuel's topped up, and that you can wait for your test in some decent level of comfort. In addition to that, of course, we will continue to undertake mobile testing of the close contacts of this individual. That work will continue over the next few days. I should stress and echo the points that the Premier has made. This is now something that we as a Victorian community have now done a number of times. We know how to respond to these kind of outbreaks, and this outbreak is no different. We are working rapidly to secure the primary close contacts and any contacts that they may have. We are undertaking testing tonight of a number of very close contacts of this individual to establish if they are at risk, and we will continue that work over the next few days. At this point, of course, we will update tomorrow morning on how we are progressing with that work. But our strong message to the Victorian community is please, if you have been to the exposure sites, if you have any reason to feel that you are not well and that you have any of the symptoms, please come forward to get tested tomorrow. And in the same way as we did with Blackrock, we can see a strong, quick response and hopefully get on top of this very swiftly. Thank you.
Just before we go to questions, I might just add, just for the purposes of clarity, this individual is a CFA volunteer and has attended at least one CFA function. So we've been through FRV and CFA, we've been contacting brigades, they're doing deep cleaning, they in turn are contacting their members, their staff as well as their volunteers, and we're confident that people will get the information that they need as quickly as possible, and that is never as fast as some would like, because you've got to determine exactly who is in the picture, who do you need to speak to. We don't necessarily want to be asking people to isolate that really have no need to. So wait for the information to come to you. That will be the most accurate information, but that process has already started. Our fire services are reaching out to anyone who would or may have been impacted by being in close contact with this particular individual. Beyond that, there's not many more matters we can go to tonight. We're happy to take any questions, and as I said, we'll be out early tomorrow morning, and hopefully we'll have some additional rapid test results from this evening. I would also make the point that later on this evening there'll be some extraordinary samples taken from wastewater throughout that southeastern catchment. We won't get those results. We do that a number of times a week, but we're going to do it again, do extra, just through an abundance of caution. So all of these things are well understood. I think the community knows and understands that what starts with one case, if you want to keep it at very small numbers, we all have to play our part. And the most important thing, every single viewer, listener, every single Victorian, if you've got symptoms, please go and get tested, and don't wait a moment. Get tested first thing tomorrow morning. You'll be doing a great service to you, your family, and every single Victorian family. with that, we're happy to take any questions.
Have there been any early indications of any breaches of hotel quarantine protocol involved in this?
No, there has not been, but there will be, and I want to make it very clear, he has provided very detailed information, and we're very grateful to him, not only for his work, but also for the way in which, as a positive case, he has provided all that detail. That means that contact tracing is never easy, we all know and understand that, but it is made that little easier if people provide really precise information. And just from some of the times I was reading out before, which you've got, he's been able to go back and retrace his movements with a degree of specificity that's worth a lot to us. Having said that though, there'll be, and this does take some time, there's CCTV in all these hotels, there is opportunity, and we will work through and review all of that very carefully just to make sure that my answer remains accurate, that there's no protocol problem. This is a wildly infectious virus. It is very, very challenging. It's what I've said to you on many, many occasions. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And we're not pursuing zero every day forever. We always knew that there could be cases, and in fact over Christmas we had cases. And we all worked together to deal with those outbreaks, and I'm confident Victorians will rise to this challenge now.
What will this mean for the Australian Open? Can it start on Monday?
Yeah, so there's a number of about 500-600 people that are either players and officials and others who are casual contacts. They will be isolating until they get a negative test, and that work will be done tomorrow. So it may have an impact on tomorrow's play in the lead-up event, but at this stage there's no impact to the tournament proper. I must say that's important to us, but the issues we're most focused on is much broader, and that's about public health and public safety, and that's why we've really pounced on this very quickly. Yeah, look, some of that's still being worked through. Again, part of the challenge here is that he tested negative, and it wasn't a one of those saliva tests that can sometimes be not quite as accurate. This was a nasal swab test, a PCR test on his last day working, and it was negative. So again, the period that we've nominated, those days and those exposure sites, the assumption is that, well, we know he had it, and we know that he may well have been infectious, and if we can add to that picture as we get more detail and things become more complete, then of course we will.
Do we know what day he developed the symptoms?
I think we're still working through that.
When did you become aware of the positive test?
At about 6:30 tonight when my Chief of Staff rang me. Then there was a CCOM meeting at about 7, and it's fair to say that I've spent the rest of the evening dealing with these matters, and that's why we're here tonight now, and we'll be talking to you about it again tomorrow.
Which CFA brigade was he involved to?
Noble Park.
Is there a reason why the stations aren't listed as exposure sites?
Well, I think there may be. One of them is default mentioned. The Noble Club Noble in Noble Park is where a number of CFA volunteers, including this individual, went for a social function. So again, we may add to this, and again it's about getting the most complete picture, and the interviews do take some time, and whilst this gentleman's been very precise, there may be other things that come to him, there may be other movements that become apparent, other things that he's done, and we don't rule out adding to this, but that's what we believe are the primary sites or the most critical sites at this stage. So we'll be indebted to each of you if you can help us to get that message out to the community. If you are in those places at those times, or if you've got any symptoms whatsoever, please get tested first thing tomorrow morning. That'll be the most important thing you can do.
But the fact that you're not...
When will we know if he has the UK strain?
Genomics take a little bit of time. That won't be tomorrow. I think maybe the day after, something like that. Couple of days.
Is it that possibility why we're going back?
We're just assuming that. I think we all have to assume that the international strain is in effect the UK strain. This thing is spreading so quickly. We've got UK, Japan, South Africa, all of which have a higher infectivity level than what we were dealing with during 2020. So through an abundance of caution, we're assuming the worst. And I think that's always a smart thing to do. These are inconvenient things for people, but they're far better than not being as risk averse now and having to go much further in a week or two.
The strain.
How long do I expect for this? As long as they need to be. But what I would say to people is, if we can safely get people back to 30 visitors to the home, if we can safely get back to the mask protocols that exist right now, but will change at midnight tonight. We'll do that as fast as we can. And that's based on public health advice, and then any change would equally be based on public health advice as well.
Does it show that hotel quarantine should be taken away from the city? So many outbreaks.
Well, I think the important thing to acknowledge is that people move around the state, and you can test negative, you can follow every protocol, you can be working in a system that has been copied by every other state, and still this is such a wildly infectious virus that we can still finish up with a breach. Now the exact details of that's not known to us. We've got to go through that CCTV footage and all of that work. The most important thing is that we are onto this quickly. We have a proven track record of being able to, as recently as just a few weeks ago, to get on top of these cases quickly. But we need every single Victorian who's got symptoms to get tested tomorrow morning. That's what I'm asking of you. And I know I've asked a lot of all of you this last 12 months, but if we're going to keep this as one case or a small number of cases, testing is the only way we can do that.
You know which strain is in the Grand Hyatt Hotel? There were a couple of positive cases.
There certainly was UK in there, and there's UK strain in a whole range of our different settings. Again, we'll know, and we shouldn't really speculate, but we'll know as much as you can ever be definitive, and we may well be lucky we can do an exact match potentially, but that won't be there until we get the genomics back.
How many cases were you aware of in the Grand Hyatt?
I think there were 6.
And
And at early stages, this guy's had no contact with any of them. So that's the nature of this thing. So we just have to wait and do more of that detective work.
and does the fact that you're not announcing any kind of lockdown tonight, does that speak to you having confidence that that's not necessary, or is it just too early to make that kind of decision tonight?
I think it's both, to be honest. It is early, and we have got onto this very quickly. And people, as I said, people will be working throughout the night, and they'll work until, we are confident that we've tracked, traced and tested everybody who's in the frame here, everybody who could be infected by this person, informed by all the other data that we have, wastewater testing and all of those things. But I think these are appropriate steps today to take tonight, I should say. If the Chief Health Officer had recommended different things, then I'd be announcing different things. Advice has got us to this point, experts have helped to get us to this point, and they'll help keep us here. And this is one case. I don't want to speculate about what the days and weeks to come hold for us. What I can say, and it's not speculation, it's just a fact. If everyone who's got symptoms comes forward and gets tested tomorrow, we'll manage this. We will get on top of this. But if people who are sick and don't go and get tested and go about their business, then that will be a problem for all of us. And it's not. I'm not being critical of that. I'm just saying, just think about what that means. To go about your business when you're sick and you've got compatible symptoms and not go and get tested, that puts everything at risk for you, for your family, for people you know and love, and people you'll never meet. It's on all of us. If you've got symptoms, get tested, and get tested first thing tomorrow.
So this was formally in the 28-day.
Yeah, this will be counted as a community transmission, even though it'll be counted as a community transmission.
And the one that was announced by Ms. Neville at 4 o'clock, will that also be counted as a
No, that's internal to hotel quarantine, as I understand it. So that does not count.
This
And it was reported a few weeks ago when it was.
This was worst case scenario when it came to bringing the Australian Open here to Melbourne. Do you stand by that as being the right?
I wouldn't describe it in those terms. We've got one case, and we're going to work very hard to keep the numbers as low as we possibly can. And decisions have been made, and the event will proceed next week.
And on the mask, do they apply to children?
No, it's 12 and over. So it's to say that the cohort doesn't change. So I know there's been a lot of rules, and they've moved back and forth. Mainly in recent months, they've got a little easier. But I think people can remember what they were doing from New Year's Eve. So not 30, but 15 to the home. Masks inside, all inside settings, public, private. And that'll make a really big difference. That the masks are a real insurance policy. I don't know, as the weather's warmer and we're all getting sick and tired of doing it, but it has served us well, and it will continue to.
A lot of these sites are in the electric premise.
Oh, well, if not in it, they're very close to it.
Yeah, close to it.
I haven't been to any of them. If that's your next question.
No, it wasn't. I was just going to say you have an intimate knowledge of the people in the area.
And I'd be very confident that my local community, like all local communities, will rise to this challenge, and we'll see people going, and yes, there will be queues. Even though Jerome's standing up extra testing sites, you've got to run testing safely. We can't just have everyone stampeding in. You don't want to turn a testing centre into a super spreader event. So it's got to be done carefully. It's got to be done in a methodical way. So yes, make sure there's petrol in the car. Make sure you've got a bottle of water. We'll do everything we can to support you. But you're doing the most important thing, to come and get tested if you've been at one of these sites at the relevant time, or if you're feeling unwell, if you've got any of those kind of cold and flu symptoms, please come and get tested. I can't be any clearer than that. It is the most important thing to really take control of this and keep it at a very small number.
Can we briefly talk to Brett?
Of course you can.